Hello and welcome, I am the Sterling and today we are playing Going Medieval. In the last episode, we were quite busy. We received a new settler, Settler 24, and we named her Lucy. But this then brought up a whole new problem. Where in this keep was I going to build another room? I decided just to tack it on the side here and call it a day. Not the biggest fan of it, but should do the trick. And finally we dug out the West Waterfall Wall Pond, which I'm quite impressed with. But as I was saying in the last episode, we can't add any decorations just yet because we're going to need all the limestone we can get to build our next major project. Which brings me straight on to this episode, where we're going to get stuck into said project. So sit back, grab a cold one, and let's get started. As I was saying in the last episode, our next major project, and quite possibly our last major project, is going to be an amphitheater, to which we're going to be building it in this space here, which brings up quite a few little hurdles that I'm going to have to get over to get this done. One of the first, and probably one of the most important, is the lack of resources. And I'm not just talking about the resources that we have in stock. I'm talking resources on the map itself. We're getting quite low with only a few resources here and there scattered across the map. Now I'm hoping with the way I'm planning this out that we can actually do it for minimal limestone, giving it the illusion that we're actually using a lot more limestone than we really are. Because I want this to sort of somewhat look like it's made out of marble, even though it's just limestone. But you get the idea. Now I'm not going to go crazy and start mining all the resources on the map because that's just not productive. Before anything else, the first thing we have to think about is logistics. This space here is very far away from the keep. Now, looking at it from the point of view of where the crow flies, it doesn't actually look that far away. Keep here, location here. Yeah. How hard is it? But then when you think about the amount of obstacles that they actually have to cross and pass and get through and rah, it actually is quite far away. At the moment, I think their fastest route without testing it is going from the keep here, out the front gate and all the way around. In fact, let's test that out. Who are you? Charles, come here. So looking at it, he's going to use the TITS, smart boy. He's going to go down, come out the TITS and across the map. Truth be told, not too bad. I was actually expecting it to be a lot worse. But let's see how long it takes. It's not bad. Not bad at all. I was expecting it to take him a lot longer than what it just did, but still not quick enough. And brings up a couple of different faults in this. We are going to need to be able to get lots of resources down here and lots of resources out of here, which, as you know, involves the dogs. And the problem with that is the dogs can't use the TITS because of the ladder, so they will in fact have to run around the map. Nonetheless, I think I've come up with a solution that will actually speed up this entire process. We're going to utilize the infrastructure that we already have. Now, if you remember when we built the temple, we actually put a little door in over here, so then we could access this area out here. And then once we flooded the area, there was a place for the water to escape. So we already have a doorway to this area. We just have to modify it slightly. Not a permanent modification, just a temporary one for the logistics. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab a wooden wall and we're going to put 1, 2, 3 down here. Then we'll just go staircase, staircase. Right, so now the settlers will be able to run down here and into the pond in the temple area. Then all we have to do is something very similar over here. Steps and steps. Done. We're now in the river. Now once we dig out the river and modify it and do what we have to do, we can then delete these 2 sets of stairs. Then it will be an easy task just to build a bridge over this river. And once again, we have access. Now I think this is a nice, neat little solution to the problem. Especially the fact we're going to be spending quite a lot of time in this river, digging it down, moving it, cleaning up this section here. There is actually quite a lot of work that's going to go into this area. So we're going to need fast access there. So next on the agenda, I think I should go ahead, plan out the footprint for the amphitheater, just so I can sort of show you how big it's going to be. Plus it'll give me something to work with, so then at quick glances I can see what I'm actually doing. Now I can't just go planning it out with the limestone walls because we still have to raise soil here, dig soil out there, move this, rah. So if I go building walls now, they'll be in the way. But what I can do is use timber flooring and then you can just build over the top of it. So where on earth do we begin? Well, that's easy. From this corner, we're going to go 28 squares over here, which will put us about there. Then we're going to go 4 off the red zone. That's 4. The 5th one's the wall. Done. Now, with any luck, I've done that correctly. Next, we're going to go 13 spaces across, which will put us there. Now let's start doing the circle, which is 2 3s, like so. 2 2s, then it's 1 1 2, then it's 1, 1, 2, the opposite direction, and then it just mirrors exactly what we just did. And if I had done it correctly, it should have been 4 spaces across, like this one here. But as you see, I have not done it correctly because it is not 4 spaces across. I'm an idiot, and somehow or other I stuffed that up. Not the end of the world. That's better. That's how it should be. 4 there and 4 there. The power of editing. Now it's just a matter of copying that the whole way around, and that will be the outer wall for the amphitheater. And there we go. That there is the footprint for the amphitheater complete. And now I think you're starting to get a bit of an idea of just how big it's going to be, but on top of that, just how much earthwork we've got to do. For instance, I want to move this river 4 spaces away from the outer wall, because that's what I'm working with, a 4 space gap from the outer wall. That also means that we're going to be flattening all this area down 4 spaces as well. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now let's plan out the inner wall of the Colosseum, which will be exactly 19 spaces off the outer wall, putting 1 there. And that there is the first inner wall. Now there already is a bit of wooden floor sitting right here. That must be a bit of leftover floor from the original mining shack we used to have. Now I'll do the other 4 walls. And there we go. That's now the inner walls of the amphitheater complete. Now that we've planned all that out, we can now move on to the next task, which is planning out where exactly the river is now going to run. All this section here is pretty straightforward. It will still continue where it is. But this section here is going to need quite a bit of work. There we go. That will be the new curvature of the river. Now, obviously, as per usual, that won't be the end result. I'm still going to have to go across and probably dig this top section out a bit. It's going to look a little too aggressive once we actually dig this whole river down 1 more level. It'll look a little too artificial. So I'll probably take this back section back quite a bit, sort of give it a bit of a slope. But for the moment, that there is a good place to start. So let's hit play and let them get to work. And there we go. We're off to a good start. They've already moved the river. On the fly, I made a bit of a change of plans on where we were going to put the steps. As I was saying at the start of the episode, I was going to have the steps in this area here coming down from here. Then they started getting to work and I noticed there's a bloody door on that tower, which leads to this area here. I could have asked for a better place to have an entrance to this area. Don't know how I forgot that that was there. I put it there when I was actually building this originally. It was how I was able to build this door. So I've ended up putting the stairs here. Regardless, I think this is the best option. Now this brings me on to the next point. This whole area will be flattened. It'll be 4 spaces to the red zone, 4 spaces to the red zone. It's going to be 4 spaces, then a retaining wall, and then 4 spaces and a retaining wall. I have 2 options here now I'm looking at the river. The first option is I square off this entire area because on the outside of our Colosseum, 4 spaces wide, there will be a limestone path. So option 1 is I square the entire area out. Or option 2 is I leave it the way it is now and have square on 3 sides and then follow the river. Honestly, I'm a little torn. Part of me likes the idea of squaring it out. It means that the actual river itself will be squared off of this area here. It will come out to about here, then merge with the rest of the river, giving us a nice square area. Very man-made, could look good. Or the other option is I leave it that little bit more organic. It's definitely still 4 spaces off the edge of our Colosseum, and it just sort of breaks it up a little bit. Nonetheless, while I have a bit of a think about it, let's continue digging. As I don't want to waste time, I want to get this done. So this area here, regardless, is going to need to go down a level. So let's plan that out. I'll be using my strip method to do this, only because it makes it a bit harder for the settlers to get trapped. And I can't be bothered having to fish out settlers every 5 minutes. This project is going to be big enough as it is. I don't need to be micromanaging the settlers. Now let's hit play and let them get to work. as you've probably already guessed, I've decided to go with keeping the river a bit more organic by having it follow along 4 spaces plus a retaining wall away from the wall of the Colosseum itself, before continuing on to Snake Down, joining up with the major river. Now that I've finished digging this section here, all that's left is for us to dig out the rest of the river. But I guess the big question is, when there's water in this river, it's going to come up to 1 space high, which will bring it to about here, meaning above the water, there will be 2 spaces of dirt. Now that's the question we're going to ask ourselves. Do we want to offset this top layer by 2, or do we want to leave it nice and grand and high? I guess it's the difference between it looking like this and looking more like this. This is a very organic looking area. I'm still not finished with this area, but I do like the look of this area. But truth be told, not 100% sure I like this area. Now the benefit of us offsetting the edge by 2 means that when we get down to this section here, we'll be able to dig this little bit out here, thus being able to knock this wall down, which will give this a nice flat edge. And then I'll be able to replicate that again in this area, once again knocking down this wall, which truth be told would look significantly better than what we've got going on here. Though I really do need to get comfortable with that look, as that is exactly the look we're going to have running all the way across here. Now later on down the track, I might dig out the soil retaining wall and replace it with, say, a clay brick retaining wall, or better yet, if we have any limestone left over, maybe some limestone block. But nonetheless, that is the look we're going to have here. But as you see, this side here is already still 1 block lower than this island over here. If we do dig this out by 2, another benefit is that we will be able to use it to our advantage when it comes to getting up and down out of the river, as the stairs will not be in the river itself, but we could actually put them in that 2 space gap. Thus, I don't have to deal with this rubbish that we're dealing with now. Honestly, the whole time they were digging that out, I was tossing and turning, but I think I've actually talked myself into it, to be perfectly honest with you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and plan out to dig this out 2 spaces. We'll do it layer by layer, once again, so no moron gets trapped. And there we go. That's the first layer. I'll deal with all this mess over here when we get down to that area. For the moment, I kind of just want to concentrate more on this part of the river first, then I can worry about everything else later. Now let's hit play and let them get digging this next section. Looking at it now after we've dug it back 2 spaces, I'm convinced I made the right choice. That looks much better. Now, if you're wondering why the screen's not colour, it's because we're going through a heat wave. In my experience, I've only ever had the heat waves come in through summer, so to have it in autumn, bit unusual. Now, in the last episode, I accidentally lied to you. I said that this area here was my last known area for clay. How wrong was I? Now that the water's missing, I've actually found quite a few other areas that have clay. For instance, over here, and finally over here. Oh, I've left a little pile of limestone blocks over there. Wonder if I'm able to get them. Don't think so by the looks of things. So now I'm actually getting a little bit more confident that if we do run out of limestone brick and we do run out of clay brick, there is still clay at hand that I can finish the job with, which that's good. Gives me a bit of confidence. So now that this section here is all finished, it's time for us to start digging out this next section. Though I really wish the heat wave would nick off, because this orange haze really makes it hard to see, doesn't it? Now, as you see, I've redone the steps. So now they are a part of this 2-step back, and then we'll have a bridge over to this section here. Now, using the same method that I used before, I'm going to do strips to dig, and then we'll hit play and let them get to work. We're now day 10 of autumn, and it's coming along quite nicely. When we're digging out this section here, I got a happy little surprise. We got some limestone. It's always good finding little bits of limestone here and there. When we dug this section out here, we actually revealed the food cellar underneath, which wasn't all that great. So as you saw, I went in, I deleted the storage shelves, got the dogs to haul everything away, and then layer by layer, I backfilled and filled in the food cellar. Now, it is a bit of a shame that we've lost part of this food cellar, but if it's needed, I'll build it somewhere else. Now I'm just going through and slowly digging out underneath the walls. I'm going to replace these sections with limestone block. Then I'll dig the next section out, replace that with limestone block. You know the drill. But other than that, we're now on the home stretch of finishing off this part of the river. Now all we have to do is just go through and finish off digging out the rest, which shouldn't take too much longer. Though I highly doubt that we're going to get it done by winter. Fingers crossed that the first couple of days of winter ain't too cold and we don't get any cold snaps and we can just quickly get the rest of this river done and then we can sit out winter. So I'll stop gas bagging and hit play and let's get this done. Wow, they did not mess about, did they? They got that done. End of day 12 of autumn, they have the river complete. And I think that looks pretty darn good. I was a little nervous about how a few different parts would come up, such as this bit here, even the mouth of the original river here, and even the way they've done this. But now it's complete and I'm looking at it. I like it. I reckon it'll look good once the water's flowing in. I may have to revisit this bit here though, only because once the water's flowing, that's going to cause the water to flow backwards and it might not look correct. So we'll just see how it looks once it's all completed and then we can take it from there. It might be all right though. Might create a bit of a whirlpool look before it overflows down this way here. Or it might just be completely disguised as this here will all be cascading as you know. Regardless, that's a big chunk of this build now done. We're ready now to move on to the next phase, which will be taking all this down one level, then leveling and cleaning up the old mine. And then once that's complete, we'll be ready to put down the first level of the amphitheater. Unfortunately, that will have to wait for another episode, as this is all the time we have for today. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.